kind of sick at the moment, but unfortunately, MLB doesn't really seem to care. They're making moves regardless, and the trade we all knew was happening, it's been talked about all offseason, has finally happened. Cody Bellinger will wear pinstripes. He's headed to the Bronx and joining the New York Yankees for nothing. I mean, when you look at this trade package, it is actually insane. Breaking, says Passan. Finally, this happens, right? We've been talking about it for a long time. The full trade is Bellinger and cash going to New York, and relief pitcher Cody Poteet going to the Cubs. That's it. A relief pitcher for Cody Bellinger. That's all the Cubs are going to get back. And, I mean, Cody Poteet, he's fine, but he's nothing, supremely special. He'll be a piece on that Cubs bullpen, but just like the fifth guy, maybe, fourth, fifth guy, so not a big haul for the Cubs. This is purely a salary dump. And it's kind of shocking that this is happening to Cody Bellinger. Of course, he was an MVP in 2019. He was so good with the Dodgers then, but then 2020 was a step back. He hurt his shoulder and a bump in the World Series, and supposedly that really set him back, so much so where he was awful. He was terrible in 2021 and 2022. The Dodgers non-tendered him. The Cubs picked him up, and he was pretty good. I mean, he was not Cody Bellinger like we had known Cody Bellinger. He wasn't hitting the ball quite the same way. His launch angles were of a lower variety. He was hitting more ground balls. He was using the whole field. His exit velocities were down, and he just wasn't hitting the ball with the same conviction, right? He cut his strikeout rate. He was overall a pretty good player in 2023, so much so he was a top 10 MVP finisher in the National League while playing some pretty good defense split between center field and first base. And, last year was not quite as good year, which you kind of could have predicted with the data that his batted ball presented in 2023, because he was very much the same sort of player this year as he was last year. He just regressed, which was going to happen with how he was approaching the ball and how he was swinging the bat. So Bellinger to the Yankees, you look at his contract, this is the reason why he's no longer a Chicago Cub. He's still a perfectly fine player, and, that expertise at both center field and first base, which he plays at a pretty good level, both positions, that's valuable, and he's overall still a good hitter. I mean, he can definitely still hit 20 home runs a year, and he has upside on his average. He could be, maybe not a perennial 300 hitter, but he could be a solid 280 hitter, hit 20 home runs, play some pretty good defense at two positions, and that's a solid player. But it's too much money for the Cubs here, supposedly. He opted into his $27.5 million deal. And big reason this is happening is the Cubs actually overspent a little bit too much. It's kind of crazy that you see something like this happen. The Cubs just barely supposedly went over the tax in 2024. Megan here does a good job of explaining the penalties for the Cubs. If they were to sign a player who received a qualifying offer, they'd lose bonus pool money as well as additional draft picks. You already lose draft picks, but you earn a bigger penalty if you are a team that exceeds the luxury tax. And since they did it by such a small amount, it doesn't really hurt ownership too much, because again, they just barely went over. There's not too much that they'd actually have to pay tax on, but there's bigger penalties for each consecutive year that you're over the luxury tax. And if they were to do it again in 2025, that would cause problems, and they don't want to be over that tax. And trading Cody Bellinger takes away $27.5 million from their payroll this year, although per Passan, they are sending $5 million to the Yankees, $2.5 million to cover this year's salary, and another $2.5 million to either cover his buyout after this year or $2.5 million towards his salary for next year should he opt in. So this is purely a salary dump. You get Cody Poteet, somewhat of a reliever, back in this trade, But ultimately, the Cubs want the financial flexibility. They don't want to be over that tax a second consecutive year. And getting off, almost $25 million of Bellinger makes the team more flexible with what they can do heading into 2025, because there's definitely other moves to be made to strengthen this roster. They already went and signed Matt Boyd to help bolster that rotation. Of course, they made the trade for Kyle Tucker, which actually, money-wise, I'm not completely sure how that's going to affect him. Kyle Tucker's going to get about $16.7 million in arbitration. That's an estimate. And they got rid of Paredes, mainly, is the guy that was actually making money. It's about a neutral move, but big picture, they want to cut salary, and Bellinger definitely does that for them. So the Cubs now can look out for other positional upgrades. There's a lot of free agents still out there, and the Cubs want a chance at them, but they don't want to do that by going over the tax. So Cody Bellinger for the Yankees, for them, they get their first baseman, potentially, if that's what they want, but they also get somebody who can take the load off of Aaron Judge, if that's what they want. Bellinger brings the versatility to do both. I don't know if this means the Yankees will not pursue Pete Alonso, Christian Walker, Paul Goldschmidt, a first baseman. And I don't know if this also means they aren't going to look at other outfielders. Infield is the big, problem for the Yankees that they're looking for. Glaber's gone. Anthony Rizzo left. DJ LeMahieu is, sparingly able to play, and Jazz Chisholm just doesn't have enough reps there yet. The only surefire guy that you can pencil in each day is Anthony Volpe at shortstop. So I think maybe Bellinger could stay there. I don't know. I kind of like Bellinger in center field, have him there, and you can get a Jason Dominguez, you can get a Spencer Jones ready in the minor leagues to begin the season, so then they're up at the right time, and then Bellinger could maybe go to first base. So we'll see what the Yankees want to do here. They're certainly not done, and the Cubs say they're not done. We'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think about this trade. Cody Bellinger is a New York Yankee.